test this out a little bit. Happy Friday, folks. Hope you guys are having a good one. We're gonna draw some maps. I'm gonna, at least initially, I'm gonna draw the map for the book we finished on stream, the Prince of Twilight book, and then we will move into doing a much larger map. A map of like the entire western continent of my little fantasy world. Those of you who are hanging out with me today, I thank you. You drew the King Leper map. Let me show you what that looks like. Sorry, let me get it down there. There we go. Okay. So the King Leper map looks like this. Okay. I figured we'd touch it up a little bit. Do some touch-ups. This is what's going to go in the book. More or less. I'll do some, you know, kind of fill out the details, any details that are missing. Then what we're going to work on is we're going to work on this. But I may do a map of Letheria, which is this country right here. And what we'll get from that is the map for the book that we just finished. And then we can start to fill out some of these other areas here. That I've kind of sketched here. And I have like a lot of questions. What's this? What's this? I'm trying to remember all the places I came up with. We'll probably have to zoom this out. Like increase the size of the canvas quite a bit to get that to work. Hope you're having a good Friday. This will be a little more chillaxed. I may have to close that window. Open blinds are going to blind me. Do a John Cage piece, just like the sound of someone eating. First thing I'm going to do is just work on some of these details here. On this layer, you know, we've got a lot of little white gaps here, so we'll work on those, getting rid of those, just filling everything in, getting balanced a little bit. Notice I'm working in black and white. I'm not doing shades of gray really. There technically are some with the white drop shadows, but we're not going to try to work with that. It looks better in print if you can keep everything black and white. Something I've experimented with a lot. Luckily, I can turn off all the text and I can turn off all the dots quite easily. So when we work in these different layers, like mountains, it's going to be very easy to work in the mountains. With black here, so we'll just grab a paintbrush. This is a 12. So anyway, yeah, I'm just going to fill in more of the details and just kind of get everything really kind of crisp. Very quickly to make sure this really fine. And 8 is good because I can put some of these little details here. other option is you can always draw them hollow and then like fill them in with a paint bucket, and that works too. The music's loud. Okay, I'll turn down the music. There you go. Sorry. All right, yeah. You can always do this with like paint bucket stuff, but because I've already kind of shaded them in by hand, and it gives kind of a different edge to things. See how this one has kind of like a little edge popping up? We can even add like some extra little features here like that if we want to. Whatever you want to do. You know, you can add a little shadow there. So that we kind of gain detail as we pay attention to each one of these. And, you know, the thing is, if I was working with real pens on like a real piece of paper, I'd let a lot of this stuff go because I just would. That's the nature of the medium. But because we're working in a digital space, we can, you know, I still want it to have that hand-drawn touch. But we don't have to compromise quite as much and like leave, you know, if there's like a little pen free stroke there, like we can grab our eraser and just kind of get rid of that if we want to. No big deal. Gale the Wizard from Baldur's Gate 3 looks like me. Well, thank you. I like Gale. I feel like, you know, these little parts of the mountains aren't quite big enough. You know, no one's going to be looking at this in like extreme detail. So it's more just, you know, are we making sure that it's in the wrong layer? I'm going to do all mountains first. Really focus on like getting the mountain layers good. So yeah, any place I notice some white, you know, just a little bit of extra something there. Just get one of those tools that like lets you kind of cruise around your document. One of those little hand tools that I see some artists use. They're always trying to sell me on ads. Like that one's a little rough right there. But doesn't matter. It all comes out in the end to look pretty cool here. Lots of little shading. I don't know why I decided to start in this corner. But anyway, here we are. And of course, we can create some hatching here too. This is an option too. So you can create some hatching. Just like that. Right? And that creates enough dimension for these hills, you know. Cruise over here. Let's go all the way to the edge. We'll start on one edge. We'll work our way that way. You know, work our way to the left. And then just go through it like that. Get this microphone in a better place. Should get the other microphone out, because it works from a little further away. This is like a big field of black here. I'm going to connect it a little bit. See, I think that looks good. You can even create like an extra little edge there. Which is good. I'm working in 8-point, which I could go thinner, like that's possible, right? You can always go like a little thinner than 8-point. 8-point's a good weight, I feel like. We have to get in here, and let's take this down to about 7-point, because like some of this stuff's got to get erased. We've got a little too much here. Too much stuff going on right here. So we're just gonna kind of clean it up a bit. Can't do these kinds of clean erasures with real pen, unfortunately. One thing I do appreciate about working with real paper, which is what the original map for Water of Awakening was done on real paper, and I just scanned it in. It gets you to kind of, how should I put this? Like, let your mistakes go. Like, you have to live with your mistakes, and that's good. That's actually like a good thing to figure out. But I also know some artists will erase their pen work. You actually can do that with like an electric eraser. You can actually like rub through to the paper. Yes, and electric erasers are a thing, and you can use them to rub the ink off through to the paper, like it rubs off a layer of the paper, and then you can correct it from there. So that works. But coloring in digitally, I feel like often the expectations go up with digital. People expect everything to be like crisper and just better with a digital piece of art. It's an interesting thing I've noticed. Anytime you have digital, right, people are expecting things to be kind of higher quality than they'd otherwise be. Some hatching here. Adding a little extra dimension to these. Filling out the shadows here. Everything looking pretty good. I don't want to like overdo any kind of smoothness, because then you start to lose that organic feel that you get from bothering to do this by hand, to like do this manually with my hands rather than like have a computer draw it, or use something like Campaign Cartographer to just like generate a map for you that's all like nice and neat and has no flavor to it at all. People have said they like the maps a lot. Some people want me to draw their maps. I'm usually just like, I don't have time, or like, here's a video. I should offer to do more for people. But I've been like just very focused on my own stuff, which is understandable, right? We're all busy. I've got a lot of stuff going on these days. Hopefully people understand if I don't like don't want to take a job, or don't want to maybe respond to an email in a timely fashion. I can't always do that. I remember somebody got really mad one time because I didn't respond to his email right away. And so he wrote like a follow-up email about how much he hated me and like how rude I was to not immediately return his email. Like he assumed, there's always like an assumption, like you're assuming that this is the right email even, right? I didn't respond to it. Kind of weird thing, but I don't know. I'm always surprised by what people get really bent out of shape about, because I don't care as much as other people. My feelings don't get hurt that easy. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Hope things are good with you, Jared. Okay. Let's see some more low. Oops. Let's get this paintbrush here. There we go. I'm gonna finish filling these out. Again, they don't have to be perfect. I just kind of want them to have a good look to them. Not have like lots of little white spaces that makes it look like I was lazy. You know, I don't want to look lazy. I want to just be lazy and not look lazy. That's a much better way of doing it. It's to appear very productive. Versus being productive. Being productive is a lot of work, so I kind of just prefer to be lazy and just not do that much. Kind of leave the work to people's imaginations. People can imagine I'm hardworking. You know, there's just so many things stopping me from doing stuff. See what's a little further up here. Okay, yeah, we're at the top of the document. Most of the stuff looks good. Slide over here. Let's go down here. Start working our way this way on the mountains. Okay, got a few more mountains here. I'm gonna finish these details. I'm gonna smooth them out a little bit. Black. Do you think coloring the map with greens, blues, etc. takes away from the aesthetic generally? It does, but I can show you what that'll look like. We can do a color layer if you want. I'll quickly do some like color layers if you want. I think it does, and the thing is, this is going to be printed in a book, so while it will possibly not take away from the aesthetic, that won't show up in a book. Because the book needs to be in black and white. Even one color page explodes the expense. Makes it triple, you know? To have one color page, unless you're doing like really custom printing from China or something, you're gonna get like it's gonna quadruple the cost, triple to quadruple it. So, no, I don't do color for this stuff. But I could show you what a color one would look like. I've done color ones before just for fun, just to kind of show people what you can do. And yeah, they look fine, you know. They can even look really cool sometimes, you know. I'm not sure which one I've done that's color. Yeah, it's getting a little nicer. We had some good rain today. I didn't have a chance to like do another rain, like playing out in the rain recording, but whatever. It's okay. If you optimize everything about your life, it's going to be pretty boring, I think. Like, these hills are pretty messy here. Like, I might just redo some of these. You know, you kind of get that these are all, like, pretty messy. Kind of erase these and redo some of these real quick. There we go. I'll fix this guy right here. Yeah, these weren't quite filled in, were they? Let's fill those in a little bit. Yeah, here's some messier ones. See, like this one's super messy right here, right? We gotta fix this. Come on, dude. Unacceptably rough. So yeah, you can totally do this in color. Yeah, okay, I already did that. Let's slide back over. These are all pretty good right here, so. I'm gonna smooth this out, give them a little bit more. All very fun to do. Okay. I'm going to guess that the mountains are pretty good now. Let's take a look. The mountains look good. Okay, so we did our mountains. We're going to take off our mountains. We're going to do our features next. Actually, let's put our mountains back on, but we're going to work in the features there. Let's work up here. If there's any kind of problems with these, we'll just kind of finish filling them out. Right. Stuff doesn't have to be perfect. Like, it's kind of better if it's not perfect. But the mountains, if there's like a lot of little gaps in the mountains, and I noticed that quite a bit. But I think most of the forests look fine. You get the idea that these look like little trees for what we're doing. See if there's any that are like egregiously bad. Some more details there. All right. Yeah, let me show you a color layer. So I'll do a color layer. I don't know if people want to, like, oh, here it is. It's colors. Okay. So you have colors. A good way to do this would be, you know, I'm going to take this color and let's grab this color picker so I can show you what the hell I'm doing. We're going to pick like a really good green here. That's like this. And we're going to size this up pretty big, maybe 80. And then we're going to go with this. And we're going to turn our opacity down to about 50%. And then what we do is we can, oops. We got to turn off the black and white filter so you can see what it looks like. You color underneath it like that, you know, and it works. If you want it like maybe a little bit different color, like maybe we want it a little brighter, like that, you know, you could just kind of color it in with your mouse if you want. Or you could create, let's create a new layer, and we're going to call this one color 1. So we have colors in color 1, and let's do all of these. We're going to do them like a brown. So we could just make it like have a brown color, and you know, we just kind of color wherever you want this stuff to be. Color it all around, and you can, of course, like airbrush style, kind of build up layers from here. Like, you know, this is pretty good. Then you go back to, you know, whatever your green was, and you can paint your green there. And you can see it kind of blends, and you can also use like this thing and just kind of blend stuff together. You know, you can figure that out. But in general, you want to work with like a soft brush and do that kind of thing. I've done it before. It's fine. You know, if you like colors and this kind of thing, I think it looks fine when you get it all filled out, but I prefer the black and white, because that's what I work with. But we can do like a full color thing, or, you know, you could start with color 1. You know, we can, for color 1, you grab a paint bucket and you decide like what's going to be the base color here. And let's make the base color like a really neutral yellow color, like this, like very neutral kind of goldenrod color with 100% opacity. Just put that in there. There's your base color, and then you can color on top of that. Like we'll do, you know, brown, and then grab our paintbrush, and here's brown. You know, so you kind of build up those layers as you go and color them darker if you want, right? Or whatever. And then, you know, green. I'm gonna get the green going here, or maybe like let's do a little darker. Let's do like a more foresty green, right? There you go. So we just kind of build up on those layers here. I don't know what's going on. And then what we can do for like light green, just do a light green, and you just kind of do like the river valleys are kind of a light green here. And build those colors up like this. I may even turn the opacity down more for this, like down to 35%. And you can just kind of color all your river valleys are nice and green, you know. And yeah, so you can do colors like that. So that works for me. Is this Canada? This is not Canada. You know. So you start to build up some colors. We can go with like a really desaturated kind of gray color. And color, you know, here's our marshes. Right? And then we can color the ocean too, you know. So let's say we want to do the ocean. We'll grab our paint bucket tool. We'll pick a base color for the ocean, which is going to be kind of this, pick kind of this color here. And click all layers. There's our blue here. And then we can pick like kind of a lighter blue. Then it's kind of more into the green like this. And then we can, you know, kind of do these little areas here. Boop, boop, boop. There you go. And then what you can do from here is you grab this guy, and you can kind of just smear it a little bit if you want. You know, we do it soft. Just kind of smear whatever you want. The smear tool doesn't work as good in this one, so I'd actually be tempted to just grab this and do like a more aquamarine color and kind of color these spots over a little bit like that. Or grab that color and just kind of color over these a little bit, so that you get kind of a little bit of a blending in, and then go back over with the lighter color. And so then, yeah, you can get like a cool color map once you build up those colors. It looked like something from World of Warcraft. Yeah, so. But you won't see this in a book, so, you know, it might be cool to put it online or something like that. But you're not really going to see it in the book. And then, of course, like you could turn off that color and just kind of see what it looks like without the base color kind of coming through. Or you could turn down the opacity of the base color too, make it a little lighter. See, whatever you want. I think that starts to look good. It looks like yellow paper, you know. So anyway, let's get back to the black and white though. Rivers. So features. No, we're going to do coast and rivers now. Let's get back to our 8 points, or 9 point is fine. And 100% hardness. Opacity 100%. There we go. Okay. Let's zoom in here. We're going to work kind of top to bottom. And just kind of clean up these rivers. Actually, I'm going to make it even smaller. Let's go 7. Okay. All right. We're going to clean up the rivers, smooth them out a little bit. That's our next quest here. See? Oops. I'm still working with blue. We want full black. Okay. I messed all that up. Fill this in a bit. Give them a little more weight. Fix where these intersect a little bit here. They're smoother. And as well as the transition to the smaller. You kind of smush these a little harder, get a little more pressure. Smooth these out. Smooth out this transition a bit. This transition, let's fill that in a bit. There we go. All right. Yeah, the problem with coloring is like, how are you going to print that? You know, that's all. It's not too much more expensive to ship color versus black and white in an ebook. In fact, I think it's the same price. I'm fudging that a little bit. I should do that in another layer, but whatever. But yeah, it's a question of, you know, who's gonna... How are you going to print it? You save so much more money by going black and white. There's really, you know, like if I were doing a comic, which I'll probably never do a comic, because just the scene is so horrible. I'll probably never do one, but I would do it as a black and white manga style comic, because when you go wide on Amazon, it's so much cheaper to go in black and white. Much cheaper to go in black and white. If you find yourself getting stuck, yeah, where you feel like your writing falls apart, you just have to keep going. That's a confidence thing. That's not like your writing actually falls apart. You maybe don't know what happens next, so you can stop and do a little outlining. Write down what's going to happen in the story. That will often help you. I notice most people, when they get hung up on something, it's because they don't know what happens next. And it's really easy to get to that point where you're just like, I don't know what happens next. What do I do? But the thing you must not do is just stop and give up. It's better to finish, even if it's going to be bad, and then kind of edit later. For sure. A completed book which is bad is better than an incomplete book which is good, because the incomplete book can never be good because it's not complete. So you have to finish. You know, you got to finish. That needs to be your priority with most things, is how do I get this done? And when it's done, what do I do with it? Better to do whatever you can to finish it. In a lot of cases, people just need to stop and outline a little bit. Stop and write down what's happening next in the story. I don't know what that dot is. Can I erase that? Okay, there we go. Work on these transitions here. See, this one's not linked up properly. I really could like work on these details infinitely, so it's more just giving this a good once over to ensure things are not like visibly bad. You know, like this right here could definitely be a better transition to this stuff. This little spot, you know, just you find little spots and kind of fix those up a bit. So that things look good. Okay. It's probably good. I mainly wanted to like make sure the mountains didn't have a bunch of holes and stuff in them. Yeah, like just kind of fix this little area right here up so that we get a little bit more weight to this river. Like that. Oops. Okay. All right, there we go. That's fine. I reckon that's good. Make sure we save our work. All right. So we kind of clean things up a little bit. There's the mountains. I see a couple white spots I'm going to fill in here. There you go. No one's going to see anything else that's left. Yeah. Okay. That looks good. And we have the dots. And we have the text. And we have the black and white layer. There we go. See, I think that looks very classy. Looks good. You know, you could put like a pattern, you know, like a dithered pattern in here. I know Clip Studio comes with a bunch of them to like make the sea look darker, but it'll still print in black and white. That's an option you can do too. Or you could do like just gray, maybe have 3 tones, but I think it looks fine like this. You get the idea. Okay. Let's take a look at this big map. What time is it? How much time have I spent here? Okay. It's been a little too long working on the details, but anyway, it looks good. So the big map. You can see our little map here, kind of in over here. We need to make a map of this area right here, which is Letheria. And that's going to be for our book that we just wrote. And then we'll have to fill this in. This is what I was planning to give all the backers. This would be a huge file, but if you want to look at like a big, crazy fantasy map, this would be it. All right, let's make a new one. I'm going to make it get a 6x9. $300 DPI. Fill this with, where's the dialog box? Always shows up on my other monitor, white. Okay. Then, grab this, copy it, I'm going to paste it. Now you can see this is pretty big. I think I did it at a little higher resolution. 300 DPI is usually fine. I don't remember what I did this one at, but it looks pretty good, printed all huge. Lots of detail. Can actually change it. I'll do 600. Let's do another one. Let's close this one. Nope. Well, new. We do 6x9. We're gonna do a 600. Wait, actually, hold on. Let me check this one. What's this one at? Let's see here. I have 600 DPI. Let's do inches. All right, yeah. So I did 600. So that's what we need to do the new one at. Otherwise, like all your brush sizes will be off too as you try to switch around. 600. That way we can do bigger stuff. Okay. Layer. Shift F5. Fill it with white. Okay. Then we have this. There we go. That's better. So we're going to create a map of Letheria, and this is how we're going to do it. It's like we'll have a piece of Veriland here, and this will be our map. I'm trying to remember what country is just to the south, but we'll grab some of these other maps here too. We have this one. And we can put this one in here and line them all up so that they all line up. Right? You can see where they're supposed to line up. Be about the same size. So mountains would be over here. I might switch the names. Do you keep these docs save on a server? Yeah, they're in several places. They're in Adobe's thing. They're on my computer. So they get saved in a couple places. So I don't lose them. But this is, we really need this to be like here because we have Spisara. I think in my mind I was switching these two. It doesn't really matter that much. See, this one's supposed to be a little bit bigger. Just need them to roughly line up. Okay. And I think we can actually, I'm going to pull these two up. Oops. To line up right. I want to see Spisara up here, and the Spisaran Sea. Right? And then we're going to go over here. And we may actually want these to be smaller still. So that it's like this. And this one would be a little bit smaller here. You know. Doesn't matter. It just needs to be rough. Okay. And then we're going to have all these mountains here. So once I finish filling out the big map grande, things will fit together, I think, a little bit better. It'll be fun. And I can always change this stuff whenever I want to, you know. These are just areas that, like, I haven't drawn yet because I haven't had an adventure in them. Here's the Wasting Desert. You know, here's the Drysenith Empires out over here. Kind of out, separated, unable to get to the west. East and west are really separated, kind of like how Eurasia is. Okay. So Lotharia, yeah, we're going east primarily. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get drawing a little bit of Lotharia. So I'm going to make a sketch layer like I did before. And we should be able to go from there. Let's call that sketch. Now for sketch, I like to do this with like a blue color. There we go. A little bit like an indigo color. That helps me to know kind of what the hell I'm doing, I guess. So yeah, so we have Spisara here. We're gonna have I'm gonna make a couple notes here. So, oops. No, I want to pinkish. Let's size this up. Let's do about 20. So let's do a dot. So he goes out here. He gets rescued here. They go to her place here, and then they head out here, and there's going to be basically mountains that go up here. A bunch of mountains, and then there's going to be one mountain. We'll call that Spire of the World. And mountains that kind of go down here. And looking at the way these things are spaced out, Ronia and Lotharia are supposed to be fairly close. So we'll maybe shrink this space a little bit and kind of figure it out from there. I'm going to put Ronia's here. And Lotharia will be kind of all the way around here. And then we have these maps that come over here. So we can actually grab this one. Let's grab the Ronia map. And paste it in. And it'll be, we'll kind of have this right here. Oh, I'm drawing on the wrong layer. I'm drawing on the background layer. Funny how I end up doing that. Let's fill it with white. Okay, there we go. Let's go back to the sketch layer. And we're actually going to lock that one so we don't do that again. A lowlander. The lowlands, these are supposed to be, they're kind of like Belgium, Netherlands. Is my inspiration for them. Kind of swampy areas, full of weirdos. You know what that's like. Okay. So yeah, we do have Ronia down here. So we're going to have mountains that kind of come up this way. Yeah, so the mountains will kind of go up this way. Big mountains right here. Who's texted me? Why? My mom. They're remaking Highlander, I hear, with Henry Cavill. That's what I hear through the grapevine. All right. So, sketch layer. I'm going to have this river continue this way. That one, of course, is going to continue this way. We're going to have mountains that come up from here this way. Kind of meet it here. This is the Orc land, and then we'll have the, we'll have the Spire of Earth here, and some mountains that go that way, and that's the Brown Mountains. We have, he was going this way. We have some forests here, right? Forests. Forests here. So then they went this way, they went to her house, and then they went back here, and then they went out this way. So obviously the river is going to come down from the mountains primarily, and then you have a couple more mountains here. Then you have this sort of lowland area up there. Connor Focloud is there. I have a lot of affection for the Highlander movies. I really do. Now, the question we got to ask looking at this is like, are we going to draw our mountains to scale, or are we going to kind of draw them a little bigger? Because this map is going to be slightly out of scale compared to the others, because Lotharia is a little bigger. It's a little bigger than Ronia. Right? Ronia really extends kind of all the way over here, so that's all Ronia. Ronia, and then I'm trying to remember what this land is, but there's another land down there that I'll probably put in. The question is whether I think I do. Oops. I think I want this map. I think I want to see like the full area, and this one. Yeah, I think I want to see that full area. Maybe because we want to have plenty of room over there. So this is pretty much how we want it, like that. Okay. All right, then we have a sketch layer. I'm gonna get in here and we'll draw more mountains. Right, we'll draw all these mountains here. There's a good little passage there. Okay, so let's get to it. Call this coast. Again, we'll start with the coast. We'll draw it in black. Let's get in here really nice and tight. I'm going to start by just kind of drawing over our original map here. And let's see, that's a good weight. Let's make that about 18. 18 is probably a good weight here. Because we are using a little bit bigger scale for this map. We don't need to use quite as thin a line for this map. We want our coastline to be nice and big and thick. I know you guys like it when things are nice and big and thick. Like a hamburger. Right? Let me turn down the opacity of these just a little bit so it's clear to me which one I'm working with. So I can see what's going on over here. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Nope. There's our coast. All right. Doing our coastline first here. Grab this Moonsong 2 map and see if I can line it up better. Get it roughly lined up. Does it shrink a bit? It's roughly good. Turn it off for now. Let's grab our eraser. Coast. I see why some guys wear those gloves, like that make your hand kind of slide. Yeah, I hear that the Henry Cavill one is still in pre-production, but that's what I heard, is that they're gonna do one. Some people are excited because Henry Cavill's one of our guys. You know, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think the original needs a remake. I say that, but I watched it with my friend Mike years ago, and he was like, you know what, this is like the kind of movie that actually needs a remake. And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it needs to be higher production and just like a little higher quality. Like there's just a lot of little things that are kind of off about it. I can't see what I'm doing. You know, and I totally get that. You know, like the acting could be better, the editing could be a little better, special effects. Obviously, it's a classic 80s movie, and so the special effects are very 1980s, you know? They're not like high quality CGI. It's all, you know, the effects of the 80s. The overlay effects and the practical effects that you had in the 1980s. That's what you get. So yeah, those could all be improved upon for sure. I actually think this story could be improved a little bit too, but I'm happy with it existing as it is. I think it's a classic just the way it is, and you don't need to do a whole lot of extra crap to it, personally. The Lowlander's immortal enemy is the Birkin. The Lowlander's actual immortal enemy is taxes. Like, you go to Amsterdam, and the houses in Amsterdam are all like super narrow because they used to pay taxes based on how much of the street your house took up. So people made their houses literally as narrow as you could possibly make them and still make them livable to avoid taxes. And you read that, you're like, that seems like a very Dutch thing to do. And it's like, yep, that's what we do. That one needs to be slightly less weight for some of these islands. So we got our main coastline done here. So now let's switch to something about, let's go to about 12. So 12 is going to be these islands here. Again, we're bringing the weight up from the original map. Because this is supposed to be a little bit bigger scale. But if we're doing these tiny islands in like an 18-point weight line, it would just be too much, way too much. So we're doing some of them as 12. And then we can use this 12 point to really do some of these rivers here as well. Do a couple of the rivers. And we have this river. Notice my sketch layer is all messed up, so. Put that there. Okay. Turn on the opacity of that. I don't need like a whole bunch for that. And coast. Do these in roughly 12 point. It's going to work fine. If they're going to reboot anything Highlander, I would have thought they would have gone for the TV show, which I like better than the movies. Most reads say that the charm of Highlander was all due to the fresh actor talent, dedication, Connery, and a very good premise. Yeah. The guy who wrote Highlander sold the script for like $500. He might have gotten points on it, though. I think it's a good story. I think it's a good premise, too. You know? I'm with you on there. I think it's a really good premise. And I think that good premise can do a lot of work. I think people underrate how much work a good premise can do in making a movie good. Like, you can absolutely sell a movie on a really good premise. The Matrix had a good enough premise that it you got several good movies out of the premise of The Matrix. So, you know, Matrix was a good premise. Clancy Brown didn't even get paid for the whole movie. He did it for free. It's a very memorable role. It's better to burn out than to fade away. You know? It's better to burn out than to fade away. I remember that. And just thinking that was like such a cool line. What's cool about doing this kind of digitally is I can kind of redo this stuff if I want to later. You know? It ended up being a conclusive story whose sequels got worse each time they made one and spun off into a TV show. Did you hear about the last one they made? It was called, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It had, it didn't have, there was no Connor McLeod in it because they killed off Connor McLeod in Highlander Endgame. Yeah, they killed him off. They killed off Connor in Highlander Endgame. So. Got a little delta there. Need to put some stuff in the middle here. Big forest. Yes, Highlander the Source. The Source. The source of immortality. It's like we get there and we're not immortal anymore. Oh no! I still think it's cool though. Alright. There's Cardam. I haven't written any stories in Cardam. I just put it on a map because I thought it would be a cool place to be. You know what I'm saying? There we go. We're getting there. Got some rivers and stuff, and this will be a lake. So that'll be cool. He had a baby in one. It was the only Highlander that didn't get a theatrical release. And the Source. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. They were looking for the source of immortality. I think that's what they were looking for anyway. I bought Highlander Endgame on video because I wanted to see it, and you actually by that time, like, rentals weren't a thing, really. Like, the rental industry had died by that point. I had to buy DVDs to watch movies because like all the rental places were out, and like Redbox didn't have crap. Like, they had these little Redbox kiosks. You guys probably remember those. I don't know if they're still around, but yeah. I think Redbox went out of business, didn't it? You guys can correct me. This thing is like super in the way. Let's see if I can fix that. There we go. Okay. That's good for our coast for now. We're gonna do all the little lines later. For now, what we've got to do is we've got to put in our mountains here. I'm going to start with the big mountain, which I'm going to do in like this little 12-point thing here. Too big. That's our big mountain. And all our little mountains are going to be around it. I'm going to leave a little space there so we can write like Spire of Earth. Let's see if what that's going to look like at scale. Is it going to be big enough? I don't know. I did this all on the wrong layer though, so I'm going to redo it. I'm going to do another layer. And call it mountains. Mountain. There we go. I feel like it needs to be like a pretty big and imposing mountain, so I'm going to draw it pretty big here. And that's a little too slow on the slope. There you go. It's a great big mountain. The Lonely Mountain does not need to be by itself anymore. Okay, so we're drawing all these. And then, of course, we'll continue up. The mountains that go up over this way. That one looks like crap. We'll have some mountains down here. There's most of our mountains. We do have some hills here that we're going to draw. So if I look at this other map, let's see where these connect. Yeah, there's going to be some mountains. So these mountains kind of connect over here. So yeah, there's our mountains. There's our sketch of our mountains. And I think it's all coming together. We may want to have just a couple of little mountains here. Or maybe some hills, you know. And we'll have the map label down here. Fun. It's already starting to look like another map. All right, I think I'm going to do the initial kind of shading of the mountains with this pen. And I might actually, I'll shrink it down to probably 12 is good for now. The stream is still going. I'm still talking. The Matrix was a good premise. Yes, it's good they changed the whole story from Grant Morrison's The Invisibles because that was strange. It's actually a ripoff of an old sci-fi book called Simulacron. I haven't read it in forever. They made a movie the same year called The 13th Floor that was actually based on it. Now, in the Simulacron, they had the whole thing like it's a simulated reality, but they did it for marketing purposes. They had a supercomputer make a simulated reality so they could run marketing ads. Which is just perfect, you know, very clever, very clever. But that was from like the 50s or the 60s, you know. That was like, you know, totally, in some ways, a better premise than The Matrix. Because honestly, The Matrix falls apart when you realize there's really no reason for the machines to do this. Whereas Simulacron had a reason for the simulated universe. Marketing. I'm hearing that Quothe, I don't even know how to say his name, might be an unreliable narrator. I put the book down when he was playing with rocks. I think the books are really bad. I've never read the second one, but the first one I thought was really bad. Name of the Wind. I'm not a fan. And the reason is because it reads like a smart boy 13-year-old wrote it. It's like the Virgin and the Chad meme. It's totally the Virgin. You know, like it's a fantasy where everything he's like... He's good at everything he does automatically. It's full of bullshit like that. And it takes so long to say anything. It's a really boring book to me. But if you like it, you know, don't let me stop you from reading it. I've talked about the cover several times because I think it's a good cover to use as a basis for what you might want to do with a cover. Which is to make a really simple Photoshop cover that kind of hits the genre without having to do any kind of work. It's a really basic bitch cover, you know. People said it's a bad cover. No, it's a good cover. It sold a lot of books with that cover, right? It sold a lot of books with that cover, so you don't need to worry about it being a super bad cover unless you're the kind of person that's like, you have some sort of opinion about what makes a good cover rather than it being a marketing thing. It was a fine cover. It's just a really basic kind of Photoshop cover. Do you know what I mean? Like Photoshop covers are, they're fine, but you know, like I could do like a paint bucket here, right? That works. You know, we do paint bucket. Kind of fill in the shape here. And kind of do this one as a separate kind of thing. Paint bucket. Boop. See, it doesn't do it perfectly though. There's still like some little gaps here. So it's fine. Some of these little imperfections, you know, it's kind of happy little trees, right? As you can draw these as, you know, so I'm putting in some like little imperfections here, makes it look more real, makes it look like someone drew it, you know. Gives you just some built-in variety to whatever you're doing here. Add some shading. Does Futurama fall apart when you realize capitalism can't be sustained for another 1,000 years? That might be the dumbest comment I've read today. No offense. What economic system do you imagine in the future that's not private ownership? See, when we talk about capitalism, people are always talking about it in inherently Marxist terms. They're defining it the way that Marx defined it. And they're thinking about it the way Marx thought about it. So you get kind of trapped in this thing. It's like, if people don't own property, who does? Are you imagining some amazing Star Trek future? Or are you one of these people that got sucked into the zeitgeist thing of a couple years back? That was a big thing on the internet, you know. It's like, we're gonna have computers that just it's Marxism but by computers. And the whole reason capitalism works, I should say, is like, why does it produce so much wealth? That's always the question that people have, right? And the reason is because people are able to make decisions. The locus of discretion is very granular. Lots of people get to make lots of economic decisions, and the people who are making those economic decisions are making those decisions very close to where those decisions have an impact. So when you own your property, you get to decide how that property is maintained based on all the signals you get about maintaining that property, right? Versus the government maintaining your property for you is not going to respond to that. And we deal with it all the time with like the commons, where like, you know, it's the city's job to cut these trees. Well, does the city going to cut the trees? Maybe. Eventually, if you harass them enough, they might cut the trees. Or they might just never cut them and let them fall on your house. Whereas you maintain the trees on your own property because they're your trees, and if you don't maintain them, they fall over and they kill you. So it becomes a really obvious thing when you're looking at any kind of like governmental stuff. Inflation, what does inflation have to do with capitalism? You know? The Federal Reserve is not a capitalist institution. Nor is money changing capitalism, right? Like there was coinage has existed throughout the majority of human history, I should say. Not all of it, but like, you know, there's coins in the Bible, right? People are using coins well before Christ. So how does the value of a coin get there? Well, partly it's the quote the value of the metal, but why do people value the metal? They value the metal because the metal's rare and because they know lots of other people are going to use that metal for money. You know? So I don't know what monetary system we'll have in 1,000 years. Some people think it'll be a crypto system. I don't know. There's a lot of problems with crypto that I've talked about as far as using it as a monetary system for everyone. And those things have popped up as crypto has gotten more popular and has become more of a tulip where people just kind of trade crypto. And here's an example, right? Is like in an actual like thoroughly capitalist system, the people who make the mistakes pay for them. And it's only in our kind of weird corporatist system where like we privatize profits, but we publicly take on debts. So when the banks, you know, torch the economy, they get bailed out so they can keep doing what they're doing forever. They can just do it for the next cycle, you know. I got to draw some dimensions halfway up here, you know. But that's not necessarily thoroughly capitalistic. And when we're talking about like what does capitalism really mean, it really just means people own stuff. So if people own stuff, that's roughly capitalism. China has a capitalist economy. It's just a very politically locked down capitalist economy where property can be seized by the communist government whenever it feels like it, right? So communism in China, over time, it's been reformed into kind of sort of capitalism. We look at like Scandinavia, for example. Scandinavia, people call it a socialist economy, but it's really a capitalist economy with just a big welfare state. So you have a big government that pays people welfare, but you don't have, you don't have the government owning everything. In fact, like in England, the government owns, a big portion, but not all of the health industry. Because there's the NHS, the National Health Service does a lot of the healthcare work, but not all of it. You could still privately acquire healthcare coverage. A lot of people don't like that because the rich people are able to buy coverage that the poor people can't. But the point is it's not entirely socialist. And the Scandinavian economies pay for their large welfare states with what's largely free enterprise. They tax the free enterprise, so the free enterprise gives some of its value to the government in the form of taxes. I should say surrenders it. That's a better word. They surrender part of it to the government in the form of taxes, and then the government spends that money. Often, and in the case of the United States, the socialist part of our healthcare system, like Medicaid, is actually highly privatized because you're going to private hospitals. It's the health insurance that's nationalized, whereas the hospital's still somehow private. I don't know. It creates a lot of weird signals. But I think I have a hard time saying that we have like full capitalism now, or that there's going to be some magical other system that's going to arise that's going to be better than it. It's fun to think about it. Star Trek had this future imagined that was largely socialist, I would say, but it had the socialism work by having things be, quote, post-scarcity, where, resources were no longer scarce, which is a really fun idea. Like, what if we could produce energy of such amazing abundance that no one would have to, worry about getting food anymore, right? Like, the replicators could make the food. Wouldn't that be grand? And I'm like, that would be very cool. And that would change economics a lot. However, we'd probably end up still with a lot of private property, because People would want to own land, and you still see that in like Next Generation. It's like, this is the Picard family vineyard, and this is the, here's my glasses that I own. Like, there's still a lot of private ownership. It's just people aren't needing to compete economically to get their stuff. So that's an interesting thing to think about. And I think you can start to approach those kinds of areas if you have like a lot of energy abundance and, someone who was looking at our current economy from like an 18th century perspective might view our current economy as post-scarcity. As weird as that sounds, it's like, wait. You guys can just flip a switch and a light comes on and you barely pay anything for it. It's like, oh yeah, I pay $150 a month for the lights to come on, and that's a couple hours of work. And it's like, okay, that's post-scarcity. Like, you're getting so much for so little work. It's obscene. But because we live in it, we don't really think of it as post-scarcity. And this is the thing about like the Techno-Wealth video, is that people rarely think about how well off they are with technology. And they instead focus on everything that maybe has room for improvement or isn't ideal, without really thinking about how good they might have it. You might have it really good compared to people in history, but you're like, well, these billionaires have more than me, so that's a problem. It's like, it could be a problem, I'm not going to say it's not, right? Inequality can cause issues, but with the whole like post-scarcity idea that people have, is like the inequality wouldn't cause any issues because you could just have as much as you want, right? You can just have as much stuff as you want. There's no like limit to your stuff that you want to buy. So anyway, it's a fun idea. It's a fun idea to think about. Star Trek still had something of a currency system for luxury items. True. And the thing is, they had to invent a currency in order to tell the stories they wanted to tell. That's where gold pressed latinum comes from. It's like, here's this thing you can't replicate. Here's a thing that's not infinite. And this is what people will value, so that they could have Ferengi actually caring about resources, right? Because when you think about it, it's like the Ferengi wouldn't have gone interstellar if they hadn't already reached this point where like there's a lot of energy abundance, If replicators are real, nobody would have to do anything. And so, yeah, Star Trek starts with that premise. And it's like, well, what would people do if they don't have to do stuff? Would they do what I'm doing here, is like make fantasy maps, and what would they do? And I think it would be bad. I actually think it would be bad. So I don't have quite as a happy futuristic outlook of like, what if robots could do everything for us? I think people would become very dissatisfied because their life would lack meaning. So the whole thing with Star Trek is like, people would do the things that would give their life meaning, and they wouldn't worry about, resources anymore. And I'm like, that is fantastic, except I think it wouldn't work. I think people like to have meaning in the work that they do. They don't want to work at McDonald's and then, they don't want to work at McDonald's and then play video games. I know some people who could do that, though. I say that. And like, I envy the people. I used to like work with people that I used to have friends that they could deliver pizzas and go home and play video games, and that's their life. And I wrote a story about it called Jimmy Turns 35, where eventually he becomes dissatisfied with that sort of low effort life. The low effort life eventually becomes just not good enough. It becomes an uninteresting slog after a while, because you feel like your life's not moving forward. So I don't know. It's interesting to think about. I think it's a great place to start. I remember Scotty in Star Trek 6 saying he just bought a boat, even though they said they didn't use money in the 23rd century. Yeah. Star Trek's all about exploration and the betterment of humanity. I agree. Look at Star Wars. Free markets across the galaxy with a few exceptions here or there. Yeah. Full capitalism would have less regulation to push competition. I'm not sure how to parse that. For the future, I would imagine CBDCs, UBI, and social credit system on a tyrannical global scale. In other words, how WF describes it, you'll own nothing and love it, right? Like, yeah, just the technocracy controls everything and gives you whatever you need. Would some crazy futuristic currency even solve the issue of different people with very different rates of consumption of tangible goods and assets? So currency solves a huge social problem that people rarely think about, which is the difference in values, right? Human beings are indolence and tolerance for all the problems that might come with work for reward. That's exactly what we're wired for. I agree. So human beings have radically different values. And when you can create a medium of exchange, those human beings with different values can cooperate and coexist because the financial incentive allows for them to cooperate and coexist. I'm afraid I might have drawn my mountains too large here. So I might need to draw more small mountains. I think I drew them a little too large. So I'm going to fill in some of these with some smaller mountains. I can always kind of revise it as I go and shrink the mountains down a little bit. Kind of erase some and, do that. I'm going to crank this up. Okay. Let's erase these. I'll put some smaller ones in. And we'll just kind of shape these. There we go. All right, so we got some smaller ones in here. Oh, I never shaded some of these up here, so we'll do these. Sure, we'll just fill it in more mountains. You don't want them to get too small, or you kind of lose the impression of them. These mountains. If I feel like some of these are too big, I'm just going to erase some of them and redraw them. Want some that are a little smaller in here. Let me get the impression of these mountains. Being pretty big here. But yeah, when you have a currency, when you have a medium of exchange, you can have people that really have drastically different values working together. And working together to their mutual benefit. Because even though, I don't like this guy over here. Maybe I disagree with the things he wants, but he's paying me, right? So if I'm running like a lawn service company, I can't really discriminate on my customers because I need to make money, right? I might have like some crazy polyamorous customers that have some kind of weird lifestyle that I don't personally like. Well, that's okay. I want them as customers, so I accept, I just kind of tolerate the weirdness maybe, and that's okay. We tolerate the weirdness. We become more tolerant, basically, as we become economically linked. Very underrated effect of that, right? Now, some people don't like that. Some people are like, no. This is what breaks down society, is that tolerance. It's like we're greedy, and so we're really willing to tolerate things that shouldn't be tolerated. Because we're greedy. Okay, I can see that point too. But most people would rather live in a peaceful society. And the truth is, like, you need a lot of tolerance the bigger the society gets, because the values will start to get more and more diverse. So if you have a society with more than one religion, or more than one sect of that religion present, and trust me, like, you can get very granular, then there actually has to be more tolerance, because, you know, it just won't, you're just not going to make a very lasting society if it's like, we're going to have a country of 300 million people, and we're going to outlaw every belief system but mine. It's like, okay, you're going to end up, first of all, it's not feasible to do that. You won't be able to gain power by having that kind of, that level of intolerance, I guess. You need to have a little bit bigger tent than, you know, my religion or no one else's is allowed. And even, you know, religious beliefs that might be very intolerant of other beliefs, like Islam, will end up cooperating with those other beliefs because, you know, the almighty dollar will kind of mute their need to conquer every other land. It's like, you know, we don't have to do it. Okay, this is looking a little better. Okay. I'm going to put in a few more right here. So we have a few more in here. Yeah. Yeah, the first world problems obsess over trivial and imaginary issues. With all exchanges thoroughly monitored via strictly electronic monetary exchanges, limiting, even stripping the individual's right to the pursuit of happiness when the megacore feels threatened. Yeah, I mean, that's why cash is so good. Because physical money, and it's why I think you don't want digital currency. You don't want a digital dollar. Now, we have 9/10 of all dollars are imaginary digital currency, just so you know. But you don't want to get rid of cash, because you never want to completely, you're just inviting a huge amount of tyranny if you can try to get rid of cash. Do strangers on the road forget they live in a first world country? People are such assholes over temporary minor things when they're anonymous. I agree. And this is a thing, Viking Boy. Like, this is, it's a thing on the internet, the greater internet fuckwad theory, which was a Penny Arcade comic, which is like, once you have anonymity plus like a captured audience, people will be giant assholes. I'm like, dude, they're pretty much assholes without that captive thing. Yeah. I noticed it on the road. Like, if we're looking at like road rage, it's like the person in the car isn't real. It's like they're not a person. They're a car, if that makes sense. Whereas, and actually this is something I think I remember seeing from like how they studied how Japanese people, why are Japanese people such rude drivers, is they depersonify. Like, the person in the car isn't a person. The person in that car is a, you know, it's an object. So they do, yeah. Strangers on the road forget they're in a first world country. The more we tolerate, the more society falls apart. Yeah, there's definitely a limit. Like, the more we tolerate weird, disgusting things, the more it happens. But you think about this, like with economic freedom, is like there's a basic economic incentive, for instance, to perform at gay weddings, right? I'm a performer, okay? I stopped performing some years ago, and one of the big reasons was I lived in California So I could not feasibly continue performing there without risking a lawsuit if I ever said no to a gay wedding. Like I could have my life completely ruined because I said I don't want to play a gay wedding. And like I don't want to perform in the wedding ceremony. Sorry. So I had to stop doing it. I had to stop an entire economic thing that made me a lot of money because the risk was too great. Like I could lose everything. I could lose everything I'd ever worked for by having to have my own moral system. Now, why shouldn't I be allowed to turn down the economic opportunity? That's always the question, right? It's like, why can't I say no economically? Well, you're discriminating. Yeah. You know, the guy cutting the lawn doesn't discriminate. He just needs customers. But for me, I can't attach my artistic product to something which I think is perverse. I won't do it. That means in the state of California, I can no longer have that profession. I can no longer make that part of my profession. I say that I've actually performed at gay bars, but like, you know, that was a long time ago when you're desperate for gigs. But it's like, nah, dude, I don't want to do a gay wedding. You know? Well, you're a bigot, and so you should be made to do gay weddings. Sound Engravers here. I listened to your new track. It was good. I liked the reverberant violin with the electronic backing. I thought that was a cool mixture of sounds. What's up, Hobo? What's up, little pup? What's wrong, bud? He's staring at me like, you gotta let me in. I'm lonely. Did everybody else go get pizza and left you here? Did you get left here? And everyone else went outside with no Hobo? I'll walk you in a little bit. Dogs looking at me all sad. Yeah. It's easy to hate someone when you depersonalize it. Yeah. Catch a lot of people using that tactic to rouse up anger towards political entities. Yeah. You do this a lot too. Like you will objectify actions. It's like a car plowed into people. It's like a car did. Did the car drive itself? The car's an object. Oh, but you see, you know, all right, that's in the wrong layer. Ghost layer. Okay. All right, I think it's starting to come together. We can start turning off our other layers and we can see kind of what we've got going on here. And I think it's looking okay. We got Ronia down here. So we'll do a forest here. Oh, we got a river that comes up this way. Okay. Now we'll do a forest here and a forest, big forest here. And then yeah. Cool. I think it's looking cool. So look good at when we publish the book. The couple who sued the man in Colorado for not making a cake for their wedding actually shopped around till they found one person who wouldn't do it and then made a fuss. Yep. There were couples doing the same thing for churches that refused to rent out their hall for that. Rent out their sanctuary. Because a lot of Protestant churches, for instance, will have weddings. Like you can rent the church for a wedding. And it doesn't have to be like a, you know, you don't have to be a member of their church to have a wedding there. You can rent the church as long as it's like a standard wedding. Well, they were like, no, you can't have a gay wedding in our church. And they're like, oh, you're discriminating against us. You're renting to other, you know, and it's true. Yeah, I'm discriminating against you. But do I have the right to say in my space, which we consider sacred, we don't want to celebrate that union? You know, they attack it from every angle. Good to hear King Leper's doing well. Thank you guys so much for supporting it. Let me link it again. We hit 4,000. We're hit 4,000. That is great news. That makes me very happy. That's 3 times as much as I needed to back it, and about at least double what I would hope to get. I didn't think anybody would be interested in this book. It's a weird book. Maybe everybody will hate it when they finally get it. We'll find out. But I really enjoyed working on it, and I thought it was a great book to work on. It was a lot of fun. And I hope everyone will enjoy it. We won't get the self-driving cars because it's a bigger cut of cost to lay off computer programmers to replace with AIs than to fire human truckers. That's an interesting thought. I don't know if that's true because of the friends that I know in the programming business, who their basic thing is like AI is not good at programming. And in fact, the people who are excited about AI programming are people that are kind of like, they imagine a workforce where they have a couple of senior engineers and then they're just debugging AI, right? So like you just have senior engineers that are debugging AI, and like that's what it is. But the senior engineers are like, no, this is actually awful, and this won't work. Now let's go down. We're going to go down to about, I'm trying to think what point I used in the other one. I think 6 point. Let's see if 6 point is a good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's get over here. Okay, we're on the coast. We'll go ahead and do the waves and stuff, and kind of get on that bit of work as we go here. We'll do features at the end. I was kicked out of a coffee shop in Seattle one time because the waitress didn't like my shirt. I had a t-shirt of Ozzy Osbourne holding the dove in his hands. Well, you know, I think they should be allowed to do that, right? I think, you know, if it's your property, you should be able to make the rules. But people come up with all kinds of things where they don't like that somebody who has property is going to make rules for that property. It's an interesting phenomenon that I've seen a couple of times where, you know, the airline should not be able to kick you off a plane. Oh, really? Do they not own the plane? Should you be able to kick people out of your taxi cab or out of your car? They're like, well, yeah, obviously. It's like, okay. So there's maybe a slightly different standard for an airline company. Maybe there should be, I don't know. But I haven't seen a good argument for it. Other than like, they're common carriers and no one should be denied access to fly on a plane. And my question usually is like, well, how much should the airline companies be required to tolerate? And under what conditions should they be able to say you can't fly on our plane or planes? You know. Thinking of this case where Delta Airlines had the police remove a guy. And the guy was injured when the police removed him. But the news story came out like, you know, that Delta Airlines had actually beaten this guy up. It was the Chicago police, Chicago Airport Police, a special. It wasn't even the Chicago police. You know, so it got spun as like the airlines beat this guy up because why would they do that? Well, because it gets clicks. You know, people don't like to fly. It's a hassle. You know, they don't like the way the airlines treat them. So a story that shows the airlines being really bad, that kind of plays to everybody's prejudices about how airlines really are, you know? I get it. I totally get it. But should they not have been allowed to remove somebody who they felt should be removed? Where do you draw that line? Can you tell when woke stuff is written by white straight people just trying to be woke? Can I tell? I probably don't consume enough of it to tell. But for me, I don't feel like anything that's woke can be truly sincere. Everything that's woke feels like performative. Anytime I see a fictional story that has woke stuff in it, the woke stuff always feels constructed and performative. That's one of the reasons that people hate it, is that it makes the story so much worse. Right? There's like this scene in Captain Marvel where she like beats up a guy who tells her to smile. So they created this just because there was maybe some feminist memes from a million years ago that were like, men never get told to smile. What's with men? And so this guy tells her to smile and she beats him up off camera and takes his bike, right? Like, it's so performative. It's such a performative thing. And no woman, it's like, is this what women would do if they could actually beat men up? Is like they would beat them up and steal their property for saying something they didn't like? That says something kind of really bad about women. But for me, like, most of the woke stuff feels really performative. So it's hard for me to say, is this person really believe it, or are they just being performative on another level of it? Like, all of it rings very insincere to me. Maybe not to you. If it had been the Chicago police, they would have left him alone for a bribe. Yeah, Seattle, the place I'd be able to remember from somewhere else. You said you were watching an anime. What was the title of it again? I'm not watching an anime. Oh, Dandadan? I watched Dandadan recently. That was good. It was a good one. I think it has a great style to it. It's cool that when people do things that like actually have style. And good writing. Good story writing in general. Very funny. Has a lot of comedy in it, which I appreciate. So yeah, I like Dandadan. That's on my good stuff of good recent stuff list, I guess. I don't know what else to call it. Nope, that one's not going to work. Oops. I used to be once upon a time. Yeah, Seattle. I liked Seattle last time I was there, but I haven't been to Seattle in probably 20 years. So, I don't know. I don't really know what it's like now. I don't think I've been in 20 years. Same thing with New York. I haven't been to New York in a very long time as well. But I thought it was a great city when I went there. All right. There we go. There's our waves there. I lived in rural America my whole life. I find cities annoying. I read The Fifth Element recently. The book is actually good if you like the movie. It describes New York as a trashy, polluted place at the surface, so they build higher into the sky to avoid it. What is this soundtrack? I will link it for you. Where is it? Oh, it's still on full screen. There it is. All right. Okay, let's do the coast over here. If we did wave around here. No, that's not gonna work. Edit, redo. Oh, dang it. Okay, whatever. Trying to find the best way to make it look, you know? I'm glad you find this music good for work. It's kind of my intent, was to make something really kind of calm and it sits in the background. This is all the stuff from last year, all the live stuff from last year. Oops. Sort of as I go further away from the edge here, the lines get a little bit less distinct. That's the goal for this. My hand's starting to get tired. I'm also out of time, so I'm gonna finish this little bit and kind of wrap this up. This will be the map for the next book. Go ahead and make it because we're going to use it. And then when we do... yeah, I didn't like that one. Then when we do the whole big map, I'll just plug this one into it. I'll just paste it in. And it'll be beautiful. We have a gigantic map. It'll be a lot of fun. You find yourself getting better at guitar from doing these videos? Yeah, I learn different things every time I try to perform. Even when it comes to like, I'm gonna play really slow because like a lot of my experience is playing flamenco and jazz, which tends to like fast stuff. But the best jazz, like the stuff that people really love, like Chet Baker or Miles Davis, tends to have a lot of slow stuff where you're being a lot more careful with your musical choices. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Oh, the fog in the movie is caused by the garbage with this, which the city let build up for centuries because it was cheaper to leave it there. Whoa. I love that. Called it trickle-down economics at work because the trash little drops from the top to the bottom like autumn leaves. All right, let's see if we can finish this up. At least this little part with the waves. And then I'll feel good about what I did today on the stream. I didn't really get started on the mega map, but I needed to do this map and I wanted to do it in good detail so that later we don't have to do it again. Just got to do this little part here. Then we're done. There you go. Let's take a look. All right, it's coming together. There's our Spire of Earth, where we meet the King of Autumn, and yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think that'll be a good map. This is Varaland. This is Letheria. We could have it say right here, Letheria. Down here, Ronia, and the lowlands up here. I may get rid of the mountains. That way they're more lowland. All right. So I think that's going to be it for today. I realized that my camera was off the whole day. Okay. I think that's going to be it for today. I appreciate everybody coming and watching this little... Come on. There. Whoop. Oh, it's caught. It's caught. Whoops. Oh, because I wrapped it around. That's why. Okay, let's... Sorry, I got to detangle myself to get the monitor out of the way so I can say bye. All right. Let me link King Leper one more time. You want to see the King Leper map? Here it is. King Leper map. So we worked on the map that we're going to ship the book with. There's a couple of little details like, this right here. I'd probably move this up just a bit and move this up, so that these are spaced out better. And then I can actually, hold on. Let's do this. And then we do that. There we go. There we go. Save that. Save that. Save this. Oh, I didn't give it a name. This is the... There we go. I appreciate it. Okay. That's it. That's it. Yeah, draw a map for fun. You watch me do it. The techniques are easy to do if you want to do them like me, or you can do it your own way. Come up with your own ways to shade it, your own ways to do it. Just however you want to do it. Thank you for the super chat. Clean. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. That's it. Have a good one, and I'll see you all next time. I do appreciate the super chats, by the way. Thank you so much. And enjoy the music.